Hello everyone, welcome along to today's video where, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be reviewing episode 6 of Class, the rather interesting episode, Detained. So this episode is another different sort of episode from Class. Class, I must say, one of the biggest sort of pluses of Class is how Patrick Ness has written every episode, has explored lots of different ways of doing things. And this week we have an episode that's very self-contained into one set. Literally, other than the first scene, is purely in one set, which is pretty impressive. It has a bit of the feel of Midnight from Series 4 of Doctor Who. It's that sort of idea of people trapped in one space and kind of chatting and arguing and falling out with each other and all this kind of thing, and it's a bit like that. But it is quite a bit different with this, obviously, because you have 5 main characters. It's just the 5 of them trapped in a room, hurling abuse and confessing their truths to each other, essentially, for 40 minutes. So this episode obviously starts off with getting all 5 of them into the detention room, as it's a fairly simple way of just putting everybody in there. It's kind of coincidental. It's not Miss Quill's intention, as we find out, to lock them up and cause them loads of pain and stuff. It's just a bit of an annoyance, as April says to Charlie. But then obviously these random asteroid thingies, not meteors, asteroid thingies, as Ram would insist to you, they appear through the crack, as usual, the magical crack, or tear, or whatever you want to call it, and cause this room to be taken out of time, as it were, and into this void, essentially, in the middle of nowhere, and black and darkness and nothingness. And they're all trapped there getting pissed off with each other for 40 minutes, really. Overall, I'm not sure how I thought about this episode, to be honest. I'm just not sure, because I didn't enjoy it loads, really. I can see why people would love it. I can see why, if you're really engaged in Class and really engaged in all the characters, why you would absolutely adore this sort of episode, just because of the way it focuses on the 5 main characters and the character development and the relationships and the whole acting and dialogue throughout this episode is brilliant. But it's just, I think that I'm not that into Class. I enjoy it, it's a solid show, but I don't have that sort of connection with the show, I think, that you kind of really need to get that much out of this episode, because, I mean, although it's not particularly like it, I'm kind of drawing a comparison between this and Heaven Sent in Doctor Who, of course. Obviously Heaven Sent is much better than this, I think, just no matter what. But Heaven Sent is again the sort of episode where there's only the 1 main character. Obviously there's a few more in this episode, but it's very much just a talky, not walking around a castle and talking. This is just sat in a room and talking kind of episode. But with Heaven Sent, I love it. I'm really engaged in the Doctor and Peter Capaldi's character, which I think is what made that story more than sort of what the setting is in the plot and everything. Obviously that's all great as well, but it's all about Peter Capaldi, and because I'm so engaged in that, I think that's where that really works. Whereas with this story and this series, I feel like I'm not quite as engaged with all the characters and as caring about all the characters as I need to be to really get that much out of this episode, because it's just sort of some of the stuff, the relationship between Charlie and Matthias, I don't really care about their relationship and all this stuff, and about, oh, I'm scared of you and whatever. Ram and April, I'm not too fussed either, and then there's Tanya as well, and it's just, yeah, I think I just don't have quite that connection with the characters. But I'll still look at a few more points, but overall I just felt it didn't quite work for me as well as maybe it could have done. Now, it was an interesting idea that Patronus has come up with this room that you're trapped in, that it constantly makes you more and more angry, which I thought was quite interesting, and initially quite annoying when you don't realise what it is, because Ram is really annoying in this episode. Obviously there's a reason, particularly Ram, because they're all being made more angry by this room and this prisoner dude, or alien thingy, that's making them already angry, and particularly with Ram early on, he is a seriously annoying character. So thankfully we get a good explanation for that, because otherwise the characters really are rather unlikable at times throughout this episode and just very irritating, but at least there's a good reason for it. And I find myself, when I'm watching something like this, trying to kind of put myself in their place, and I'm trying to think, how would I react to this? Surely you just try to calm yourselves down when you try to just sort of think about, you just found out and realised that this room is making you angry. So why don't you focus on that point that it's trying to make you angry, and therefore try not to be angry? I don't know. I just find that when I try to put myself in the place of some of the characters, sometimes it feels like, am I just unable to imagine what it'd be like, or are they just being stupid? I'm not really sure which one it is. So it's interesting as well. Now, in terms of the truths and confessions and all this kind of thing, there wasn't anything particularly revelatory, as it were, because it was, Matthias was, I'm scared of you a bit, Charlie, I love you, but I'm scared of you a bit, and he's an alien, so that's understandable. You wouldn't be completely kind of in love with him and not any fear at all when he's alien underneath, at least, if not on the sort of face of it. he's human. So that wasn't particularly surprising. Then we had Tanya with her obvious thing of, oh, I feel as a place that's basically all teenagers of that sort of age, frankly, feel a bit out of place and sort of like they don't have too many friends or whatever. Most teenagers feel, I certainly did, like I don't have many friends and all this kind of thing, and a bit they're left out and all that kind of thing. And that's what Tanya is. That's not particularly revelatory. That's kind of just teenagers. Then who's next? Ram. I love you, April. Blah blah blah. We kind of knew that already. And I hadn't quite picked up on the whole April doesn't love Ram as much as Ram loves April. Obviously, it was kind of hard to read in the previous two episodes. It kind of felt like April was more into it, but clearly that was kind of the other way around. So I don't know whether I just completely missed the signals on that or what. Maybe I'm an idiot. Let me know if you'd already realised that, or if that was actually news to you, because it was a little bit to me. So that was the most sort of slightly surprising one, because I didn't quite think it was that way around, so maybe that's just not me following the story very well, or it is actually a surprising thing, maybe, I'm not quite sure. And then, so that's those two covered really, and then that's pretty much it, other than Charlie, who says, I love you, oh what a surprise, and Matthias at the end. Isn't that a surprise? But then the interesting, but I'm going to lose you, or something he said, so I don't know whether that's sort of foreshadowing, the magical foreshadowing idea, or sort of prophetic of the future, blah blah blah. I think it will be. I think Matthias will die in the last episode. Mainly because he's clearly been one of the main characters of this whole series, and yet he was never included in any of the promotion or marketing. So there was clearly, he was different to the rest of them, because he's very much been pretty much part of the team all the way through. He's been in every episode, I think, and pretty involved with each of the stories. Maybe he hasn't always done that much, but not really any less than any other characters overall, I would say. So it seems slightly odd that he was never in the promotion from the very beginning. We didn't even know he was in the show pretty much until a couple of weeks before it aired. I think they were almost like the people who went to the film weren't allowed to post that he was in it or something. I think it was all a bit mysterious and confusing. So it seems most obvious they've painted him so differently to everybody else in the promotion and stuff. It would suggest that he's going to die in the last episode. We'll have to see, and it seems the most likely character as well. He is the least connected as well. He's only connected to Charlie. Charlie will use the Cabinet of Souls, and he won't actually get to complete the use or something, but it'll cause Matthias to die, or Miss Quill will kill Matthias. Something like that, I'm sure, will cause his death in the last episode. I can be fairly confident. And so for once, Charlie's saving the day, which is quite good, because he hasn't really done that much recently. I mean, he stopped himself from using or Matthias helped him to stop himself from using the Cabinet of Souls in the last episode. He did nothing in episode 3, as far as I can remember, very little in episode 2 as well. So he hasn't really done all that much through the series. He's just been the alien factor. He's an alien, he's a prince. And to be fair, he picks up on that as well in the episode, saying how you all just think I'm a prince who asks stupid questions. And that is kind of true of how he kind of seems a little bit through the series. Because he's alien, he doesn't understand human stuff, so he says slightly stupid things. I think it's understandable as well. Him feeling out of place, there you go, the same teenage thingy again as well. Obviously, he's an alien. We're not aliens, not quite the same. But it's still that sort of thing. So you can very much see that Patronus is writing for a certain type of audience. It's for almost near enough my age audience, teenagers. Well, I'm 18, so near enough me. It's what he's writing for, but I haven't found it that spectacular. I think it's good. It's a good series, but it's not sort of the greatest thing since sliced bread, as it were. I will say one of the two of the biggest strengths of this episode are the direction and the music. The direction from Wayne Chi Yip, I think his name is, or something, I can't remember. It's something slightly unusual name. And it was very interesting, very different, because it's such a claustrophobic setting and idea. I need to pick up on that as well. Claustrophobic setting and idea for the story. When you've only got one room to play with for the whole 40 minutes, you've really got to find a way of keeping it interesting with the direction and different shot types and just effects and anything, just try and make it interesting. But it really works. That is one of the strengths. All these fantastic stuff with the flickering lights and everything, and just the different close-ups and angles and stuff he uses, is all fantastically well done to try and keep that claustrophobic feel, but also keep the action going in such a sort of only one set in such a small area. And the same with the music as well. Blair Movat, for the 6th episode in a row, does a brilliant job with the soundtrack. I really need to get some more. I'm so sorry I haven't done any more. So much class unreleased music. I do really like it, and I will eventually get round to it. My plan is to do episode of music for the rest of the episodes at some point, hopefully before the end of the series, but that's only 10 days away now, so it might be after that. But before Doctor Who comes back, I will make sure to get as much of the class music out as I possibly can. So apologies for that. But yet again, this episode, just lots of fantastic themes. I think I picked up early on a bit of the Doctor's theme in there as well, or a Good Man 12's theme even. Just a subtle moment of that, which is always good. And just lots of really great kind of building up the tension and the serious music, and this way he uses different sort of instruments and stuff is really fantastic, I think. One other thing that was brought up when I was thinking about that was the Charlie's claustrophobia, which I thought it was slightly plot convenient again because as far as I know, we hadn't had anything about Charlie being claustrophobic up until this episode. When Patrick Ness has written every single episode, you think he knows this is coming up, so surely you chuck a reference or two to Charlie not liking tight spaces or not liking being in cupboards or something like that, just to give you an idea that he's claustrophobic, because it was completely news to me as soon as he steps in the room and starts going, oh, I don't know what's happening kind of thing. And he says, oh, I can't cope with small spaces. It was just a bit sort of abrupt and unexpected and a bit random kind of thing. When we've seen him for 5 episodes before that, you thought it would have come up at least once before this episode. So that was something that just felt a little bit chucked in to kind of lead the plot along and show he's weird and different and everything and all that. It's a fairly human thing to have, really, I guess, claustrophobia. And the aliens, he's very human for an alien, I think, maybe you could say, and all this stuff about how he's different with his confessions and stuff, and that saves the day. Until the last minute or two, we get Miss Quill back in, finally. She appears in the end of the episode, and sets up a very interesting episode for next week. I sense we can clearly see from the end of this episode that a lot has happened. It's only been 45 minutes, but she's been off to some alien world looking at the next time trailer or something, where time clearly passes differently or whatnot, blah, 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 blah. We'll find out next on Saturday, I guess. Miss Quill's got her gun back, got rid of the arm. She's going to go on some ragey kill streak, I imagine, in the last episode, which will be rather interesting, I sense. And it's another interesting idea from Patrick Ness to have concurrent episodes. So episode 7 will run at in the same time period that episode 6 happened, which I don't ever remember happening in the Doctor Who universe, as far as I know, and I've seen quite a lot of it. Certainly all the news, everything from 2005 onwards. I don't remember them ever doing a story where 2 separate episodes were happening at the same time. That's not a two-parter as it's such. It's not a two-parter. It's 2 episodes happening at the same time, which I can't really remember happening before. Let me know if I'm forgetting something obvious and there has been an episode like that. But it is something interesting and different to do, to have 2 stories happening concurrently. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think Miss Quill is a really good and interesting character. I sense she's going to go on a full-on rage fest in the last episode, kill loads of people, bring the Shadowkin back, probably try and kill the Shadowkin. Maybe she'll try and use the Cabinet Soul, something, I don't know. So it's all going to go off, I sense, in the last episode. Characters will die, stuff will happen and everything. But I think this coming Saturday looks like a very interesting episode as well, with lots more CGI stuff, lots more locations. Obviously, it looks very just interesting and more alien. A proper alien world for Class again. After the Shadowkin's realm, we get to go to another alien world of some description. So I'm looking forward to that. And well, there's not too much more to say on this episode. It was a solid episode, I think. If you're more engaged in the series, you probably enjoyed it more. I can see why it would be loved by people and why people just kind of obsess over it, but I haven't really, personally. I just haven't quite engaged with Class as much as some people have. Some people have said I hate it, it's terrible. Some people are totally obsessed with it. I think slightly over the top obsessed with it personally, but that's just me. And I'm somewhere in the middle, I think, where I enjoy it solidly. There's been a couple of really good episodes, which I thought were the first episode and episode 4, the first episode of the 2-parter, I thought were really good. Then the other episodes have just sort of been solid to goodish kind of thing. This is just a very vague description. But who knows how these last 2 episodes will go. I think the finale will make a lot for me, because I love a good finale. A good sort of everything going crazy, lots of invasions and drama and excitement and that kind of thing. I love those big, so opening episodes and finales are usually some of my favourites. And so we'll see how that goes in episode 8. But thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Like, subscribe, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you again tomorrow for another video. Goodbye.